You think she's avoiding you. Her replies slow down. Her energy shifts. Her presence becomes inconsistent. And the natural assumption most people make is simply she's losing interest. But Carl Jung taught that the human psyche rarely behaves in simple ways. What looks like avoidance is often not rejection at all. Sometimes it is fear. Not fear of you, but fear of what you awaken inside her. This video is about the moment when emotional attraction becomes overwhelming, when feelings rise faster than the conscious mind can control, and the psyche responds not by moving closer, but by pulling away. According to Jungian psychology, when emotions threaten to disrupt the inner balance a person has carefully built, the unconscious activates defense mechanisms. Distance becomes protection. Silence becomes safety. Avoidance becomes control. What you are witnessing is not disinterest, but the fear of losing emotional autonomy. This is the paradox few people understand. The stronger the feeling, the greater the urge to retreat. And once you understand this pattern, her behavior will stop feeling confusing and start making sense. Begins with emotional overwhelm. Carl Jung believed that when unconscious material surfaces too quickly, the ego feels threatened. Attraction is not just a pleasant emotion. It is a destabilizing force. When a woman begins to catch feelings she did not plan for, feelings that challenge her self-image, her routines, or her emotional boundaries, her nervous system reacts. She may feel excitement and anxiety at the same time. This inner conflict creates psychological pressure. Instead of leaning in, the mind looks for relief. Pulling back becomes a way to slow down what feels uncontrollable. She is not calculating, she is regulating. Her avoidance is an attempt to regain emotional equilibrium. This is why the shift often happens suddenly. One day the connection flows effortlessly. The next, the energy changes. Jung would describe this as the ego resisting the unconscious pull. The more intense the emotional charge, the stronger the resistance. From the outside it looks like indifference. From the inside it feels like emotional overload. This is also where projection plays a role. Jung explained that when people experience strong attraction, they often project unconscious desires, fears, and unmet needs onto the other person. You stop being just a person. You become a symbol, a mirror, a possibility that is deeply unsettling. If she begins to associate you with vulnerability, attachment, or the risk of emotional dependence, her psyche reacts defensively. Distance allows her to pull those projections back and regain a sense of control over her inner world. She may convince herself that she needs space, clarity, or time. But what she is really doing is protecting herself from emotional intensity she does not yet know how to manage. Goes deeper into the fear of losing identity. Carl Jung emphasized the importance of individuation, the process of becoming one's true self. When attraction threatens this process, avoidance appears. If she feels that getting closer to you might change her priorities, soften her boundaries, or expose parts of herself she keeps guarded, the unconscious sounds an alarm. Love, or even the potential for it, feels like a force that could reshape her identity. For someone who values emotional independence or has learned to survive by relying only on herself, this can feel dangerous. Avoidance becomes a way to preserve the self she knows. It is not about playing games, it is about self-preservation. This is why her behavior may seem contradictory. She avoids you, yet reacts strongly to your presence. She creates distance, yet remains emotionally aware of you. Jung would describe this as a tension between the desire for connection and the fear of dissolution. The psyche wants intimacy, but only at a pace it can tolerate. When that pace is exceeded, withdrawal restores a sense of safety. Silence becomes a boundary. Reduced contact becomes a way to breathe again. This is especially common in individuals who have experienced emotional loss, betrayal, or instability in the past. Their unconscious associates strong feelings with pain. Even positive emotions trigger caution. What matters most is how you interpret this behavior. If you chase, pressure, or demand clarity, you intensify the fear. If you react with insecurity, you confirm her unconscious belief that closeness leads to emotional chaos. Jung believed that what heals is not force but integration. When you remain grounded, self-contained, and emotionally stable, you allow her psyche to relax. You become safe, not overwhelming. In that safety, feelings are no longer something to escape from. They become something that can be explored without fear. This is the hidden truth behind avoidance. It is not absence of feeling. It is the presence of too much feeling too fast. And when you understand this, you stop taking distance personally. You stop trying to control the outcome. You allow the emotional dynamic to unfold naturally, without pressure. That is when fear begins to dissolve, and what was once avoided slowly finds its way back, not out of obligation, but out of genuine emotional readiness. Moves into the shadow, a concept Carl Jung considered essential to understanding human behavior. The shadow is made of emotions, desires, and fears we have learned to suppress because they feel unsafe, shameful, or destabilizing. When a woman starts catching feelings she did not consciously choose, those feelings often activate her shadow. Vulnerability, need, longing, and emotional exposure emerge from places she usually keeps hidden. This creates inner tension. She may feel drawn to you, yet disturbed by how much you matter. Instead of facing these emotions directly, the psyche deflects. Avoidance becomes a way to push the shadow back into the unconscious. Distance allows her to pretend she is unaffected. But the more she suppresses these feelings, the more they intensify internally. Jung believed that what we resist does not disappear, it grows stronger in the dark. Her silence, her hesitation, her sudden coldness are not signs of emotional absence. They are signs of an inner struggle between who she believes she should be and what she is actually feeling. This is why her behavior may seem emotionally charged even when she is distant. You may sense tension, awareness, or unspoken intensity when you interact. The shadow creates emotional electricity. She may watch you from afar, react strongly to small things, or seem unsettled around you. Avoidance does not mean detachment. It often means the opposite. The feelings are too alive to be safely expressed. Jung warned that ignoring the shadow leads to projection and conflict. Instead of acknowledging her own fear of closeness, she may tell herself she is busy, confused, or uninterested. These rationalizations protect the ego, but they do not resolve the emotional truth underneath. It is about control and emotional safety. When feelings emerge unexpectedly, control becomes the unconscious priority. Carl Jung taught that the ego seeks stability above all else. Falling for someone introduces uncertainty. It disrupts routines, expectations, and emotional defenses. If she has built her life around predictability or emotional self-sufficiency, attraction feels like a threat to that structure. Avoidance restores control. By limiting contact, she limits emotional exposure. By creating space, she reasserts authority over her inner world. This is why avoidance often coincides with moments of increased intimacy or emotional closeness. The closer the bond feels, the stronger the urge to step back. The psyche is trying to recalibrate. This also explains why pressure has the opposite effect of what most people expect. Pushing for reassurance, clarity, or commitment increases emotional volatility. It makes the situation feel heavier, faster, and more demanding. From a Jungian perspective, this overwhelms the ego and strengthens resistance. True emotional safety is created when there is no urgency. When you remain calm, centered, and non-reactive, you signal emotional maturity. You show that connection does not require loss of self. This lowers her internal defenses. She no longer feels that getting closer will cost her freedom or stability. Control is no longer at risk, so avoidance slowly loses its purpose. Focuses on the unconscious test. According to Carl Jung, the psyche constantly observes how others respond under emotional tension. When she pulls back, she is not only protecting herself, she is unconsciously observing you. She is watching how you handle distance. Do you panic, chase, and collapse into insecurity? Or do you remain grounded, composed, and self-directed? This response tells her unconscious whether closeness with you is safe. Emotional maturity is not proven through words or explanations, but through behavior under uncertainty. If you maintain your sense of self, your purpose, and your emotional balance, you communicate strength without force. That is deeply reassuring on an unconscious level. This is where many connections fail. People interpret avoidance as rejection and respond with fear-driven behavior. They overextend, over-explain, or withdraw completely out of resentment. Both reactions reinforce her fear. Jung believed that transformation occurs when opposing forces are held without reaction. When you neither chase nor punish, you allow the tension to resolve naturally. The unconscious begins to trust. The fear of losing control softens. The emotional energy that once caused avoidance now seeks expression. This is not manipulation. It is psychological alignment. When fear no longer needs distance to survive, closeness becomes possible again. Is where understanding turns into wisdom. Carl Jung believed that real connection does not grow through pursuit, but through presence. When she senses her feelings growing and responds by creating distance, the most powerful thing you can do is not react emotionally. This does not mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means remaining internally steady. When you do not chase her withdrawal, you remove the pressure her psyche is trying to escape from. Your calm becomes an anchor. Your self-containment communicates that intimacy does not require emotional chaos. Jung taught that people feel safest around those who are whole within themselves. When you continue living your life, honoring your values, and maintaining emotional clarity, you create an environment where her feelings no longer feel dangerous. What once overwhelmed her nervous system begins to feel manageable. This is also where unconscious trust forms. Trust is not built through reassurance or explanation. It is built through consistency of being. When she notices that distance does not destabilize you, her unconscious relaxes. She realizes that closeness with you would not mean emotional dependency or loss of control. You are not trying to fill a void. You are not demanding a role in her life. You are simply present, grounded, and emotionally regulated. Jung described this as psychological containment. When one person can hold emotional tension without reacting, the other person feels free to explore their feelings without fear. The avoidance that once protected her now feels unnecessary. The emotional intensity that frightened her begins to transform into curiosity instead of anxiety. Reveals the final shift. When fear dissolves, attraction changes form. Instead of pulling away, she begins to move toward clarity. Her communication slowly returns. Her presence becomes warmer, more intentional. Not because you forced it, but because her psyche no longer needs distance as a defense. Jung believed that when the unconscious feels safe, it seeks integration. Feelings want to be expressed, not suppressed. What once existed as fear of catching feelings becomes acceptance of them. This does not always happen dramatically or immediately. Sometimes it unfolds subtly through increased comfort, openness, and emotional ease. But the direction changes. Avoidance stops being the answer. The ending truth is this: not all distance is rejection. Some distance is the psyche catching its breath. When a woman avoids you while still emotionally aware, it often means the feelings are real enough to scare her. Carl Jung taught that the most transformative connections challenge the ego before they comfort it. If you understand this, you stop trying to control outcomes. You stop reacting from fear. You become someone whose presence feels safe, not overwhelming. And in that safety, fear loses its power. What was once avoided no longer needs to be escaped. It can finally be felt, integrated, and chosen freely.